Welcome to the Wealthy Artist Podcast. And I'm your host, Sarah Clanton.
And I'm Wilson Harwood, and we're talking about how to develop your wealth,
enjoy financial freedom,
enjoy artistic freedom,
and live the life you've always imagined. Well, welcome to the podcast, Heather Mae.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh my gosh, this is just so special. It's so great. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on today. And I'm going to spring this both on you. Wilson doesn't know I'm doing this today. But like, I'm super, you know how woo-woo I am. And I think maybe I've done this one other time on the show, but I pulled a card for us today before the show. Yeah. And it's from if you're watching on YouTube, thanks for listening and subscribing. Shameless plug. I'm pulled from my Magical Mermaids and Dolphins Oracle card deck, which was gifted to me. It was my first deck. Right. Thanks, Amy Hume, if you're listening. But today I pulled, and you're gonna fucking love it. Self-employment.
Oh, nice. Whoa. Perfect.
Right? It says you're a born entrepreneur and your business is surrounded by magical opportunities. What? That is so crazy.
Can we get a close-up shot of that card? Because
is it like a mermaid? What is she doing?
She's like
maybe
dropping the water.
Fish or a champagne bottle.
Is that a fish?
It looks like a bean thing, like a bean, or maybe lots of.
If you guys are on YouTube, you can see this. This is our plug for YouTube. Switch over to YouTube and see this cool card.
I love it. So there's more. I'm going to read it out loud here. Okay, I said before I pulled it, I said just like, hey, like what messages do we? I was like tapping into my intuition. I'm like, all right, what do we need to hear right now for all of us? So it says self-employment. You're a born entrepreneur and your business is surrounded by magical opportunities. You have the drive, discipline, and desire to be your own boss. This card also shows that you have the magical ingredients for a successful business. Heaven wants you to know that you're fully supported spiritually. As long as you stay enthusiastic, new opportunities will come to you. Your positive energy attracts customers, clients, and contracts. If you're in the process of opening a new business, oh my God. Now is the time to do spiritual work, praying, meditating, visualizing, and affirming, to conduct research about your business, and to work on yourself by eating healthfully, getting sufficient sleep, and exercising regularly. These multiple layers of action will propel you to miraculous business opportunities. And that's why you're here today, Heather. I wanted to talk to you, bring you on. And I want people to get to know you and who you are. I'm going to let you tell the people, the wealthy artists listening, but I just think that's so great because you just launched a new business and
I did.
It's so appropriate. So Heather Mae, tell us, who are you? Where did you come from?
So I am a singer-songwriter based in Washington, D.C. I am, a social justice, predominantly mental health advocate in my music, but in 2020, we all had to pivot. And I realized that because I was already doing so much digital work on like my social medias, particularly my Instagram, I had been coaching, and Sarah was like a huge part of this. Do you remember 3 years ago? Do you remember 3 years ago? It was like we started talking about crowdfunding and we had a couple of successful crowdfunding campaigns. And so people started coming to you and I and being like, how do you do it? Right. And so I had, just like you, had been coaching off and on throughout for a couple of years, but the pandemic completely changed everything for me because I wasn't able to tour. My income came from 75% of my body being on a stage, right? So what did I do? I mean, when my body couldn't be on a stage. So I just started listening to the inquiries in my DMs. The people that were coming to me and being like, just asking me, can I pick your brain? Can I talk to you? Can I pick your brain? And that helped me develop which is my company, Rad Heifer, which is a boutique marketing. Yeah. Boutique marketing and artist development company.
Sweet.
Yeah, great. I love it.
Yeah.
So great.
I love the DM approach.
Say again, Wilson?
I was just going to say the DM approach is genius.
Yeah.
Because when you're starting a business, the hardest thing is like, how do I know I'm going to help people? Like, I know I have this idea, but how do I know it's going to like land? And that's huge.
Yep.
So
Yeah. And I think that one of the things that small businesses and coaches specifically, because I'm a coach, what we struggle with is I have this thing that I do and I do it really well. And I want to teach people, this is what I want to teach, but they're getting inquiries for like other things. You know what I mean? And what they don't realize is they already have a clientele that's built, that's asking them for their advice on this one thing. And so they can, of course, they'll get to the place where they can teach whatever they want, but you already have a clientele. So teach that and do that really well and just get a massive amount of referrals, which is ultimately what Rad Heifer did.
Word of mouth. I mean, it's so powerful because there's a trust there. And I think we've probably talked about this a little bit before at some point about with someone on the podcast, who knows, and about how like on social media, you don't want to just think about when you're like dating or when you're meeting someone or building a relationship. You don't just like, or someone on the street, you don't just walk up to them and be like, hey, will you follow me on Spotify? You say hello first, and get to know each other. And I think I'm just so glad you're here today to talk about this, because just like Wilson and I got together and we were talking weekly, or not weekly, but like maybe monthly, getting together. And we're like, let's record our sessions, and we've helped each other grow. Like Heather Mae, you've been a huge part. We've like thrown each other ideas for years, and we've co-written together and all kinds of stuff. So you just have to pivot and you have to grow. And actually something that I would love for you to speak on, which has been kind of around in my atmosphere lately, is this idea of like, cool, you want to start a business, you're an artist, and you can do this as an artist. You can use your name and get an LLC for your name. We can talk about that. But let's say you're just getting started as an artist, or you have a side business. Like, what do you do to start your business officially? To get an LLC, is that the only step? Could you speak to that?
Yeah, so I wanted to make sure, as a musician, I'm forever terrified I'm going to get audited. I'm just going to be totally honest with you. Forever. Like, is anybody not scared? And if so, I would love to know your secrets. And I have all my stuff. My stuff is super cut and dry. My inventory, I use QuickBooks, the whole thing. But I'm always scared. And so here was Rad Heifer, and my income like tripled my pandemic income, because my pandemic income was, as we all know, it's like live streams and writing songs for people and Patreon and, guarantees from live stream concerts from venues. But like, there's people are transitioning right now, and venues are now doing some in-person shows. So I just started to notice that over the last 6 months, my artist income was drastically dropping from even like the fall of or the summer of 2020. Because in the summer of 2020, I was like, actually, I'm doing okay. I think I can do this. I think I'm all right. I think I've talked to a lot of different musicians, and they were all like, yeah, it was like around the summer that they were like, wait a second. Okay, I actually think I can make this happen. I think I can do this. I can float it, the live streams, the music, working with venues, getting those guarantees like Patreon, crowdfunding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then the winter came, and we were like, wait a second. Things are changing and downshifting. So then Rad Heifer came along, and I started coaching, and I realized, oh my God, this is an opportunity for actual real money. So the first thing that I did was I found a bookkeeper. That was the very first thing that I did. Highly recommend it. If you are somebody that goes from 1 month or 1 quarter being like, not making a whole lot of money, to the first month of that quarter being like, whoa, get a bookkeeper, because they will help you keep everything in line. They'll actually make sure that you're actually where you are investing your time. Is it actually making you money? That was a big thing that I noticed, is that I didn't have to always be on Zoom meetings. I could actually teach via email, and that's just as lucrative and takes less time than a 60-minute call versus a 15-minute email. So 1, bookkeeper. 2, filing for an LLC is super easy. There are places that do it like for you. Zen Business is one that I use. I really like them. They help with like making sure all of your tax papers are in line. And it I'm not even kidding. Like, you could file for an LLC in like 20 minutes. Awesome. It's that easy. So those are the two big ones that I would say.
How did you find your bookkeeper?
Instagram. Totally. I find so many entrepreneurs on Instagram. I really specifically, and I'll just like step up on my soapbox. No offense, Wilson, but step up on my soapbox real quick. But like women don't show up in SEO as much, and it sucks. And I hate it, and I want them to. And that's who I pretty much exclusively hire is LGBTQ people and women. And they just don't. It's so irritating. It's so frustrating. And when I Google, if you Google like, accountant for small businesses, like the first, for at least in DC, the first like 10 were all men. So I went to Instagram and just literally used hashtag lady accountant, hashtag female accountant, hashtag female accountant for women, accountant for women, and hundreds all over the country. And what's really cool about it is that you don't have to, or all over the world, you don't have to be in the same place as the people that work for you anymore.
Didn't the pandemic teach us that?
Right.
Right.
So I found she's amazing. I love her. And there's a bunch, though. I will say the person that I found, she's awesome. She's in Houston. Her name is Pretty Ashley. Her name's Pretty Penny Accounting. But there's so many female bookkeepers out there. So if anybody is looking for a female bookkeeper, DM me. I can send you a big list.
And this is not your CPA, right? This is separate from that. This is not your tax
so there are
accountant.
CPAs and there are bookkeepers. Your bookkeeper does your day-to-day, like, hey, you're spending money here. And then there's bookkeep. It's like some rectangles or some squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares. So there are bookkeepers that are also CPAs, but not all CPAs are bookkeepers. Does that make sense?
Gotcha.
Yeah. So not everybody does your tax prep. So make sure that you ask.
I do love that and I love the way that you talked about Rad Heifer. I love that you said when Rad Heifer came along.
Yeah.
Like it's something that you had your awareness about you to see like, okay, all right, I'm getting asked this. I want to like circle back around to that. Like, what is your audience asking you for? Like, what do they respond to? Like when you're sharing, I noticed that like when I am my most ridiculous self, like I get the most views or the most engagement. And it's funny because we want to sometimes we get caught up in the I should post this, I should do this, I should post that, and like, but when we can really just like let ourselves joyfully and have like funly post, I think there's something really to that, and I think you do like an amazing job with that of like translating. I think it's so important. We can lose our heads, right, with social media, like for us to be like who we are in real life on social media, because that energy does radiate. Yeah, and you and I have talked about this authenticity. Like people can see an authenticity meter. They can see it. They have it inside of them. There's just something that's like my gut tells me that's your authenticity meter. And we all have one. And if you're not being authentic on social media, it can read. So that's definitely one of the things that I teach with Rad Heifers is I do social media management, social media coaching, and I teach my clients, a portion of my clients, how to develop their voice comfortably while also having boundaries of like things I don't want to talk about, things I don't want to share. You do not have to be posting pictures of yourself in a bikini saying like, bikini body season. You don't have to be doing that if that's not a part of your brand. However, if you are for feminism and body liberation and women empowerment, posting a photo of yourself in a bikini and being like, every body is a bikini body, 100% is going to talk about your why and your mission and where you stand, and will garner you more followers from that. Your why. We talk about your why a lot. I think we really we dug into that a lot in the first several episodes. I feel like your why, and that's not always easy to find. I mean, like I feel like my why is always like kind of just a little bit shifting, like kind of fine tuning, maybe. I don't know. How long it take y'all to find your why? Wilson, do you want to go first?
I don't know if I've found my why. I mean, I'm like constantly, I'm listening to you guys being like, I'm learning a lot right here. But it's, I guess I'll come at it from maybe a different perspective. I know Sarah's super active on social media, and I think you feel very comfortable in using it and like spreading your brand. And for me, I struggle with it. I think it's, I don't know why exactly. I think it's just not like something I've developed a habit around easily, and it's always like I do it with intention, but maybe I should try just being more sporadic and kind of just show my
intentionally
personality
sporadic.
Intentionally sporadic.
Not think about, like, for me, I'm like, I need to plan every post and everything should be like, you know, what would people like? I just overthink it because that's just kind of who I am.
Yeah.
When I start to overplan, I quit posting. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I have to kind of like, I know I'm going to post.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. I for me, as somebody who has bipolar disorder and like a whole smorgasbord of mental illness, it's really important. By the way, happy Mental Health Awareness Month. Yes! It's May. Happy Mental Health Awareness Month. So if this gets posted in June, I will also say Happy Pride Month from a queer femme over here.
Yeah, keep it coming.
But, you know, right now it's May, Mental Health Awareness Month. And I will say for somebody who I really need routine. And so I use lots of scheduling apps. I don't just like schedule my posts so that they go live. So I don't actually have to open the app unless it's a reel, because reels don't have scheduling. You can't schedule reels, which is so annoying. But I use a lot of scheduling apps, not just to schedule them, so that they, like Later.com. Later is an app that I use. I love it so much. I've not seen it affect my algorithm like other scheduling apps. No, there's a ton of other ones. There's like CoSchedule and Hootsuite, but I really like Later. So if you're somebody that just doesn't want to open up the app at all because you might get sucked into like the feed, use a scheduling app such as that. And then I also use a project planning app or website, Asana. I use Asana to help me manage and plan my stuff in advance, because for me, I have so many things that I talk about. Like I talk about Rad Heifer, I talk about body positivity, I talk about social justice, I talk about being poly, being queer. And for me, the things that I talk about, sometimes something else will take priority when I really need to be focusing on, you know, getting another client. So it helps me by using like a scheduler in advance to be able to go, okay, girl, I know you want to talk about how amazing your partners are, but you also have a big concert coming up on Saturday. So we're going to talk about that on Tuesday. And so I have a schedule to help me make sure that I'm staying on top of my business, and my marketing is out there. Like Instagram and Facebook are free ad spaces. And so not using it when you are a small business owner or an entrepreneur is saying, I don't need this. I don't need a free ad space. Because if you have followers and they're intentionally following you for a reason and not using Instagram, it's just snubbing your nose at an ad space. Yeah. And so I'll say to you, Wilson, that you can find ways. I would suggest like finding ways to incorporate that flexibility. So I have clients who like hate scheduling. They hate it. They hate it so much. They don't want to pre-plan. They're kind of like Sarah, where they're like, I want to know what I'm going to talk about, but I also want that flexibility. And so I put on their calendar social media time, where it's literally 1 hour every other day, where they just spend 1 hour either making things or posting things. And then like their story on that. Yeah. And then their story on Instagram is just like whatever. They get to just be whatever they want to do. They can talk about the coffee they drank. They can talk about the thrift store they just went to. They can talk about their grandmother's dog if they want to. And that's all in your story. And that's just rotating and extra goods that they get to give.
So 1 hour every other day dedicate to social media, whether it be creating or
business hours. Business hours.
Yeah. And that's so hard sometimes as a self-employed person to have boundaries. And if you're new to it, say like in the pandemic, maybe you're like more self-employed now than you were before, like having those boundaries. And honestly, this is a great boundary because I do love to get into the creating and stuff of the social media and stuff. But I think this is a great conversation for me because I'm realizing like, I think I've had this weird kind of shift around it where I'm just like, I'm not allowing myself to have a business hour in social media, because I'm like, oh, I'm not just like digging around, like I'm actually like working here, and it's free ad space. And actually Wilson has an amazing like, you do so great with Facebook ads, and we have a podcast where Wilson talks about how to use them. And that's another thing, like they've curated so much information for us to use for better or worse, but they are free ad spaces. And hashtag perspective is everything.
It's really interesting because so what I do for marketing for the studio that I run is a lot of cold outreach, because it's something I was taught 2 years ago. But I've also read a ton of books and heard now multiple people being like, what was that turning point for your business where you started to see like the referrals coming in and things were just happening? And all of them said it was just through posting on social media. And now I'm sort of like, wow, it's maybe the cold outreach could be working, although it's a ton of sweat equity in it. Maybe about the same. I spend an hour and a half twice a week on it right now.
Yeah.
So for me, what I think has been tricky is that I'll spend, that 3 hours a week doing that, and then I won't dedicate another 3 hours to actually creating content. And so it kind of feels like you're being pulled in a lot of different directions.
Right.
So I guess my question is the future of marketing on social media, or is this cold outreach thing sort of antiquated in a way, or do you do both? I don't know.
I don't do any cold outreach. Mine is all referral, because I've always heard that going with a warm, you have a higher rate of a sale from a warm audience than a cold audience. But however, if you're automating your outreach to cold audiences, I mean, it's just like passive income running on the back. So like if you have emails, newsletters, Wilson, you say you do a bunch of Facebook ad work, which is like way over my head, but like that is a great referral rate, right? That's going to be a great cold audience to work with and be like, and get some sales, quote unquote. If you're listening to the podcast, I just quote sales. But I will say one thing is if you're working on social media as a producer, right? So Wilson, you have a studio in Nashville?
Right here. Yeah.
Awesome. So talking about the amazing music and letting them hear the product that you create in your studio will get clients like me to go, holy wow. The stuff that is coming, holy wow, because I was like afraid. That's not what I was gonna say, but I was afraid that I couldn't cuss.
Better.
Holy wow, this place is taking me to church. I did not know that Wilson created such amazing content, and showing the vast array of content of music that you create in your studio, showing, being part education, part showing off. We'll have your clients like me, musicians, going, I've got a week in Nashville coming up. I'm just gonna like pop into Wilson's studio because the stuff that I'm hearing on social media is amazing.
Yeah, and sorry, you keep going.
No, that's it. I was gonna say you were the
spotlight, Heather Mae. Well, I was gonna say, so this is awesome to hear from me. This is awesome. I'm getting like free coaching right now. But basically, and so with producers, and I think this can be true with artists too, it's like the audio quality on your phone is crap, right? So I found this workaround by using OBS, and it's all this technology, and it sounds awesome, and you can screen flow and show what you're doing, and people can hear the high fidelity audio. I know Sarah's like, I'm out of here. Blah, blah, blah.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
But the key that I put that off because it's a lot of work, right? But what you said is that you have to treat it as work. These are business hours. You have to do the hard work of creating content on a fairly regular basis, because these algorithms are so powerful. And like I've said, I've heard multiple people say they run six-figure, up to multi-million-dollar businesses that started on social media alone.
Yeah.
With building a warm audience on social media. So
absolutely.
As someone who's done cold outreach for 2 years and it's like, kind of works, kind of doesn't, I think that I need to switch my
The one thing that I would say is that I'm looking at for those who are not watching on YouTube, who are listening to the podcast, I'm looking at your setup behind you. You've got this like cool, like low purple vibey lighting behind you. And I just want to say that like setting matters. So while I understand you want to like only produce videos that have this like crazy high quality. And that is awesome. Like maybe once a month. What I'm talking about is literally you being like, I'm in the studio here with Heather Mae. She just created this really sick beat. Here it is. Dun, 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 dun. Can't wait to show you it later on your story. Yeah. And then taking like a mini clip of that, like 15 seconds, and posting it to your reel with hashtags that are Nashville producers, indie pop producer, female producer. You will show up with the vibe of your studio. You work with female producers. You have a vibey, cool, outfitted studio, and you work indie pop in Nashville.
Right.
That is... You don't have to necessarily have this amazing quality videos. What I mean is 15 seconds showing off the studio that you've worked really hard to create.
Yeah, totally.
And reels are very powerful right now.
Oh yeah, they're completely, there's no algorithm. There's zero algorithm. People are sleeping on reels. And if you are an artist... I
haven't, honestly, this is my call. This is my wake-up call, because I did one about my favorite coffee.
If you are watching reels and you're like, oh my God, that's really funny, and you're sending it to a friend, right? You are a viewer. You're a lurker of reels. So what I'll say to you is you're a lurker. That's what we call it.
I totally am.
You are a consumer of them, and yet you're not producing them. But it's clearly working because you're now watching them. Exactly. Yeah. So if you know, musicians, because I know this is particularly it's a Wealthy Artist podcast. If you're not using reels, you are missing an opportunity to use a free zero algorithm tool that will guarantee you followers.
That's awesome. And that's nice.
Yeah.
What was that?
Mic drop.
Boom. Yeah, and one thing I'll say, because I know that there's a lot of musicians on here who are like, I don't want to make reels of videos of me making feta pasta. Like, what is that? I don't want to do that. I don't want to do funny little videos of, like that don't pertain to music. So I would challenge you, which is literally what I do with all of my social media clients, is I send weekly trends, a list of 5 to 10 reels and TikTok videos that are trending right now. People like the challenges that you see people do, the repeating voice, the repeating like audio clips that you see in like different types of videos. And I send those trends out and say, how can you apply this to your business? So an example of this is like, there was recently, do you guys remember the Busset Challenge?
No.
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh. So anybody's listening who has listened to the Busted Challenge is laughing right now, because the Busted Challenge was like this Doja Cat song, and it's like super cool, and they blended it with like a old like 1950s Put Your Head on My Shoulders, and it's like put your head on my goo 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 goo, and there's like this beat drop that happens, and there's like this I'm actually speaking about the Silhouette Challenge, which is also really good. Silhouette Challenge, where all of a sudden it turns bright red. Oh hold up, wait a second. I think I'm blending two. This is the social media manager problem. I'm blending two reels right now. Hold on. So there's a Silhouette Challenge. Oh wait, so yes, okay. Here we go. There's this Busset Challenge, right? And I think it's a Doja Cat, and I'm sorry if in post you guys realize it's not Doja Cat, but there's this pop song, and I'm pretty sure it's Doja Cat, where all of a sudden, boom, the person drops down, and you can twerk, or you can like drop down to your knees and show off your booty, right? Folk musicians, which are a lot of my clients, are like, how would I do that?
You just got to do
that.
So
what we did is an information drop, where you drop down, right? So it's a clip of you being like, if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're not watching on YouTube, I'm like waving into the camera, and there's like information on there. So it's like folk musicians, spend most of their life on stage singing with an acoustic guitar. And then when the beat drops, boom, I had one of my clients who information dropped that she is a female producer, and now she's branching away from folk music and is now doing chill wave, lo-fi, indie pop. And she played a clip of her music. What that did was it garnered some fans who aren't necessarily folk musicians, folk fans, but they are chill wave fans or lo-fi pop fans. And you are telling your current fan base, I'm branching out, I'm trying new things. She actually got more patrons from that, because she said, if you want to hear the new music, it's over on my Patreon.
Perfect.
So, and a bunch of new followers. Yeah, so I would say like there's lots of ways that you can take something that normally like maybe it's a little vapid or maybe like it's not your style. You don't really want to be right. It's not resonating with your brand, but there are so many ways to take a reel that is trending and apply it to your business and what you do.
And you don't want to copy someone, you know, like you want to be, that's that authenticity thing. Like you can feel like, I don't want to do that. But like, you're not thinking forced dimensionally, you know, like you've got to like, how do you apply it to what you're doing and have fun with it? Yeah. And it doesn't have to be that. In fact, don't copy it.
Don't copy it. There's so many ways. The thing is like that while I understand not wanting to copy like the trend that's happening right now, that is kind of the point.
Oh, I guess I meant like don't just exactly copy. Like use the trend.
Take. Yeah.
And then, like you don't have to do what they're doing with that thing. You can do your thing with that thing.
Exactly. And you should take the audio of somebody who is in your circle and use that audio because, you know, you can just remix it or you can literally use that audio that they have on Instagram. Use their audio and do a different take on it or even tag that person and be like, you know, Sarah Clanton did a hilarious version of the silhouette challenge. Here's my version. Thanks, Sarah, for the inspo. What do you think? What are you going to do, Sarah? You're going to share mine, right? And I'm going to share yours. So then you have cross promotion as well.
Yes, which I think is super effective.
It's pretty
feels more organic in a way.
And then what is the deal with like feeling the overwhelm of the kind of feeling like I'm Instagram, TikTok, like I've got these different platforms. Are you telling your clients to do just one? Or are you telling them to do both?
I'm telling them to go everywhere. I'm telling them that they should just, whatever feels right for them. Like right now, I am completely on Instagram. I share to Facebook, of course. I use it because I have the followers there. But I'm everywhere, you know, but TikTok isn't my thing. So like I haven't started really, I have a TikTok. I use it to make reels. But I have,
really?
you know, I don't, totally.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on TikTok, but I haven't done anything yet either.
Yep.
I'm just there.
So what I would say to them is just do what feels right. You know, if you make something and you can cross post it, do it, but don't let the overwhelm of social media stop you from trying at all, because it is a free tool for you to use for your business.
I love that so much.
And then what about tracking growth? Because like at the end of the day, for me, I'm like very much like, all right, like you said at the beginning of the podcast, like, hey, doing these Zoom meetings is not nearly as efficient as the emails. I want to be like, you know, social media is a tool first and foremost. It can be fun. Hopefully it's fun. But at the end of the day, like doing random ass videos that aren't getting you anywhere is not worth it. So at what point, how do you teach people to like check their analytics, or do you do that? It's so data driven, you know?
Yeah. So I love it when my clients have a drop in engagement.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let that just sit for a quick second. It is normal for you to have a drop in engagement. Why? Because you're a freaking human and you have thousands of followers, you know? So you are not always going to be the brightest, biggest, most rambunctious, in your face client or musician account. You're not always going to be the person at the front of the line every time. A drop in engagement means that last week or last month, you had a great month. You were so high that you had a drop. Now we got to figure out new content. I literally just had a meeting with a client yesterday, and she was like, I have a drop of 5% this month. 5% of my interaction. They're not talking to me. And I'm like, whoa. It's not that they're not talking to you. It's that last month you had such a great time. You had such a great month. We had, 5,000 people see this one post, 15,000 see another post, 500 on the rest of them. Just because you had a drop in 5%, that's not one of the things that I love about the shifts and change on Insta. And I know I'm specifically talking about Instagram, but that is one of the main tools that I use, is that they're removing your views in your story and they're removing the likes in your posts. The reason why I
heard about this.
Mm-hmm. You have to go the extra mile to see it. It's not like it's completely going away. It's just you have to go the extra mile. The reason why I freaking love this as a social media manager is because now your first thing that you see is not a judgment on yourself. The first thing you do when you look at your own stuff that you're making, when you look at your art that's out there in the world, you aren't first going, ugh, only 100 people like this. What you're doing is, I really like this enough to post it. And that's what matters. While I totally understand you literally want to just have just a massive, mountain of engagement and it never goes down. What I will say to you is this: Lizzo's engagement drops, Beyonce's engagement drops. It is normal. It is okay. It is post to post relative. Some posts are going to be great. Yay! You got a bunch of followers. That's amazing. Some posts are going to fall flat. And some of those posts that fall flat are, yay! Some of those posts that fall flat are about your music. And you were talking about a new song and follow you on Patreon to hear the rest of it. And Instagram hit it because that means that they're going to go away from their app. That sucks. Right. And so as a coach, what I say to my clients is, I'm so sorry. That sucks so much. We live in a capitalist country. But by creating a conversation and a community and a back and forth relationship with your fans, by creating a community on your little corner of the internet, they will come and find what you have posted that day.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
More mic dropping.
Boom, boom, boom.
Just dropping everywhere. I love it. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I would love for you to talk about your Patreon. Speaking of your community. So now you have this community. Now what? Now there's Patreon and you are doing something really cool with your Patreon. So I'd love for you to talk about it.
Yeah. I launched my Patreon in May of 2019. I was releasing an album in September of 2019. And so I wanted to have like an exclusive fan club that would get to see all the music videos and hear the songs ahead of time on top of my Kickstarter backers. And I wanted people who wanted to get like insider tips for touring, the prep for touring. There was just so much more I wanted to give my fans besides my Kickstarter rewards. I wanted to give them like updates on like what it was like releasing an album. So I launched my Patreon and it was just, Heather Mae's Patreon. People came over. I had like maybe 50 patrons in February of 2020. And then the pandemic happened. And I really, as a social justice songwriter who writes predominantly mental health advocacy music, it is really important to me that I knew that my fans were going to have a drop in their regimen to help them stay stable. My fans find my music because it's brutally honest about what it is like to struggle in the darkness of your own mind. I have aspects of depression speak, anxiety speak, suicidal ideation in my music. I know who my fans are. And I knew that in the pandemic, people were going to be experiencing depression and mental illness at an unprecedented level. And I know darkness and I know what it takes to get out of it, to get through it, and endure it. And that's community and things that fight off isolation. Mm-hmm. And I just, it just felt like normal to me to just be like, hey, come over to this space. I can't perform for you like on tour anymore. And I'm really sad about that. But hey, if you want to support my music, I'm going to like host yoga classes and tarot workshops and a burlesque class and poetry readings. And basically I turned my Patreon, before I realized it, into a digital clubhouse that I now call the Big Loud Love Club.
I love it. I like that you said Clubhouse, like exclusive fan club.
Yeah.
Where people, I just love that. This little like really kind of diving even deeper into community. And two, this is another thing where it sounds like it started off with you just doing your thing, which is authentic, and you're going with it. And I think there's something really to be said about like when you do plan things out, and like it's not like I have no schedule or whatnot, but like I just find that when I do have this schedule, you can after a while see this cumulative effect, and you have to give yourself that time and that grace and to go through that. And I think that it's so cool that you're like, I just started doing this thing and it just turned into this thing, and you couldn't have. And so now, how many patrons do you have?
I now have 200 patrons.
That's amazing.
Sweet.
You know,
that's awesome. That
authenticity, like sticking with that, because what you need, I actually on Clubhouse this morning on the app on Clubhouse, like just got this notification. A friend of mine was in this room. It was like daily kickstart Reiki channel. Oh, master Reiki channel. I was like, oh, hop into this. And then I got to like get a little Reiki reading, and it was so cool. And like part of her message was something that really resonated with me. I was like, man, on the day that I'm doing the podcast, like something that's so cool is like I feel like with this podcast are doing a lot of healing of like our own like financial stuff of our past. And we're all, you know, talking about money is not always the most comfortable thing to do, but I'm like so all about like, you know, going through the uncomfortable and stuff. And we all need each other to do that. And I totally forgot where I was going to go with that for a second, but it's all good. But I just think like breaking these stories is just so important. And so we're here and we're like, you know, trying to make our little community over here. And I don't know. It's just, I wouldn't have anticipated when Wilson and I started hanging out that we'd be doing this now. So, the Reiki thing, she said that when I trust myself, I give permission for others to do the same. Oh yeah. And I feel like you're like, that's like what you're doing is like, you know, I'm trusting that I love to do this. This helps me. I know it's got to help someone else.
Yeah.
So for our listeners out there, like what has really helped you? What is like, and maybe it's not in the box you thought it was in.
No, when I started, so the pandemic happened, I was terrified. Just like everybody else, for so many reasons, but also on top of being a musician, I wasn't going to have touring. And touring is where I write. Touring is where I manage my mania. I thrive as a person with bipolar disorder. I thrive on the road because I am able to release so much of my hypomania. So for those who don't know, hypomania
and you can drive for a long time.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, the hypomania is different than mania. So hypomania is kind of like where I live as somebody with bipolar disorder. And that's where like I have urges to have compulsive behavior. So drinking and meeting people and staying up way too late. And there's lots of things that are good about my mania. But when I'm on tour, I'm able to manage it because of the late nights. And the meeting people and the driving and pushing our bodies just to the exactly. But it, my therapist calls it harm reduction. Touring for me was harm reduction because I was able to go to the furthest depths of my mania, my hypomania, without harming myself, because touring and performing is such a great high. So here I am. I'm at home. I don't have touring. I am terrified of what might happen. And so I needed to have reach out or things that I could do with my fans. I needed that connection. And what came was just this like really cool hanging out process of just like, I had every month I would release, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to invite this person to come hang out with me. I'm going to write this song this week, and I'm going to do a poetry workshop on this day, and I'm going to have a concert here. Come to any of them. Don't come to any of them. I love you. Pay what you want. Thank you for supporting my music. And what developed was this another system, this like scheduling system that has really, really helped. And what's really fun about this is literally this month, I switched everything and said to them, I'm not having any other than my support group, which I offer a support group to my patrons every other week. Other than my support group and like hanging out and having coffee with you guys, I am just going to write music this month. All I'm going to do for the month of May is we're not going to have any workshops. We're not going to have any concerts. I am just writing music. And they wrote back to me and were like, you have given us so much this year. please go write. So the support that is there when you have a relationship with your fans, there's this trust that's built where no matter what you do, they're like, yes, we're here for you. What do you want?
Reciprocity. I can't get the word.
Reciprocity.
Yes, that's the word I'm trying to say. It's like a culture of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is what I love.
Yeah.
Sounds like a very healthy community, which is incredible. Awesome. Yeah.
Love it. It's cool. Y'all should go listening. You should go listen to Heather Mae's music and find her on Instagram at Heather Mae Music. And your website is heathermae.net, right?
heathermaemusic.com.
heathermaemusic.com. That was a long time ago. Anyway. Oh man, Heather and I have toured together. We've known each other many moons, and so I'm so excited that things are, moving and doing great, and that and I love your hat. If you're not watching on YouTube, go check it out.
Yeah, she's got the best background, by the way. It's like all pink. It's
because on the other
style.
side of this thing is my closet, because when we moved into this house, I was like not planning on having Zooms in my office, and so my office is like this like bright pink wall. It's the same color as this bright pink wall with like all this art and plants and woo stuff, and then behind me is like my closet of costumes and my like pajama pants. And I was like, but Clanton, you have a bookcase. This isn't pretty. It's not pretty. And so I realized that I needed to have, people are looking at my home. So this is a garment rack. I just want you to know.
Ooh.
I am the queen of hacking things. This is a garment rack with a backdrop that is pinned to it. That's it.
Yes. Yep. I love it.
Awesome.
I've used blankets. I've been all kinds of creative during this time. I love it. Oh my gosh. But I'm so grateful that you've been able to spend time with us, Heather Mae. Thank you for coming on the show. And everybody go check her out and give us a listen. If you're listening on podcast, thank you for giving us a review and 5 stars and all the follows and likes. It really does help. And that's all I have there.
Thanks so much, Heather. This was amazing.
Thank you so much for having me, both of you.